Welcome everyone to the Hurting Humanity channel. As the fires continue to spread in California, there's a few things to look at that we should all be suspicious of in regards to this being a deliberate man-made fire. Now, if you're somebody out there that thinks that the government wouldn't and doesn't use DARPA-like weapons, like directed energy weapons on their own civilians, well, you're just clearly a sheeple who is still sound asleep to the realities of the world. The government has waged war with civilians, silent weapons for quiet wars. The civilians don't even realize the government has gone to war with them because they're too busy being stuck in the left-right paradigm, thinking that the opposite political party is the enemy and my next door neighbor who has a Biden flag or a Trump flag is my enemy. When the government is working together, conspiring against its people and has them too busy being divided among one another to actually realize this. The government uses weather modification, weather control, directed energy weapons, psychological operations against their own people. And are there some things that actually do occur that are natural events? Yeah, but I'd say at this point, the majority of the events that occur are man-made. All you have to do is look at how rampant this is, how often this occurs, and how quickly these fires spread to look at them and say, okay, this is not normal. We saw it in Texas. We saw it in Lahaina. We saw it in Paradise, California. So there's a bunch of things out there that people need to pay attention to in regards to motive. Because the motive isn't necessarily money-oriented, and the motive isn't necessarily about human sacrifice. The motive is always going to revolve around the New World Order. And what are they trying to push across right now? Their AI governance, which means that they need a brand new infrastructure. So some of the bizarre things around the story is, for starters, the temperature in California is in the mid-60s. Not the kind of temperature you would think a wildfire would start in. And of course, as they're already trying to spin, they're trying to say that, well, there aren't normally wildfires in January in California because every single person who has lived there their entire lives have come out and said that this isn't normal, this isn't normal. Of course, they're saying it's normal now because things have changed with the climate. And that's how they get away with doing these things out in the open. And when people ask questions as to why these weird weather developments are happening, they just say, well, it's climate change, you know? And they're supposed to just nod and accept it and say yes. The other narratives out there, of course, is how we have our Democrats in California who have been playing bumbling fools, right? We have Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass who have been doing what I've been calling sabotage. They've been sabotaging Democratic cities and Democratic states so they could bring in new infrastructure. They need to burn places to the ground in order to rebuild. This is the Phoenix Rising. This is build back better. And there's even stories out there about how there's no water in California, which I covered in an earlier video, how people are saying that the fire hydrants are completely void of water. And of course, you don't hear the government talking about cloud seeding like they did in Vietnam during Operation Popeye to create a monsoon. You would think the government would, create water for us. And if we had areas that are actually, suffering from droughts, well, there's solutions to that problem, right? I mean, California is a place that gets millions of gallons of snow and rain per year, even though most people have been convinced that California is always in a drought. And what do they do with that water when the snow melts? Well, they dump it into the Pacific Ocean, of course. And years ago, citizens in California passed a bill, a $7.5 billion water bond bill in 2014 to make sure that this exact thing didn't happen. So there would be enough water in case of an emergency. So they were supposed to build and construct water storage facilities. And of course, 11 years later, that hasn't been done, right? And this is the type of thing I've been screaming about for years, where people should be paying attention to things like this: water, food, electricity, heat source, all these types of things that we take for granted. But they're too busy in California worrying about DEI and all these other things that they've created to keep people at each other's throats and distracted from real life issues. It's amazing for people who don't live in America and listen to the channel. I mean, the issues that get discussed in this country are so ridiculous. It's amazing what we're living among, that people don't even realize that they need food and water to survive. They're too busy getting angry about people based on their gender or what gender they choose or pronouns and all this nonsense when your government is deliberately sabotaging you. They're deliberately making sure that fire hydrants don't have water in them, making sure that you don't have structures built, facilities built to store water. You know, water, which you need to survive. You can't really go too long without water or food, but specifically water. And how convenient that Mayor Karen Bass is away on vacation while all of this happens. Don't be suspicious of that either. Now, here are the two big things that need to be discussed in regards to a motive. Whenever you see a crime show, right, or you hear about a crime, how often do we hear about insurance policies? How often do you hear about, well, this guy killed his wife or his wife killed her husband? And you go, oh my goodness, why would they ever do that? And then you find out, oh, there was a life insurance policy attached, right? 9 times out of 10, even without a lot of evidence, people will get tried if there's a life insurance attached to it because they'll say, well, there's a motive right there. Life insurance, money, right? Cha-ching. Okay, well, you're going to court over this, even though we don't have much evidence. We have a life insurance policy. That's enough evidence to prove an actual motive here, right? Well, how about this for a motive? California insurance companies canceled policies months before the Los Angeles wildfires. This is according to Newsweek. This is according to many media outlets that are letting this information out there. And it's according to a lot of people out there who have been tweeting it, who have been putting up videos on social media about how their insurance companies canceled their policies on homeowners insurance. So in the event that their house burned to the ground, they wouldn't get any insurance money and they wouldn't get any help to get back on their feet. Literally their lives burnt to the ground. So that's the very first thing people should be suspicious of. They should be looking at that and they should be saying, yeah, that's a bit suspicious that State Farm, one of the biggest insurance companies in North America, canceled hundreds of homeowners policies last summer in the Pacific Palisades, exactly where this is occurring, the same area which is now being ravaged by a devastating wildfire. The move was justified by the company as an attempt to avoid financial failure as the frequency and severity of wildfires is growing in the Golden State, especially in at-risk zones. But as the multiple fires currently burning through Southern California threaten to cause devastating losses to residents, many will likely need to rely on their insurers to get back on their feet after the blazes are contained. So clearly in a state like California, which really before 2000, there's not many wildfires that have been tracked back to California, at least not at this type of scale that we see every single month. We hear about a fire in California, fire in Canada, right? It's the new norm. You're not supposed to question anymore because you're supposed to be desensitized to it. You're supposed to expect it and say, well, that's California, right? Just like all of a sudden we'll have, blizzards in California. And people go, that's really weird that there's a blizzard in California. All it takes is 10 blizzards in California in the span of 3 years for people to go, oh, that's California. That's how it is in California, right? Because they have short-term memory, probably from the 5G towers. So obviously the insurance companies knew to not be involved with any of the people in the Palisades, the Pacific Palisades in California, and they withdrew the insurance, which should make people suspicious. Don't forget about the people in Paradise, California, who also went through this a few years ago, and you never hear about, just like the people in Lahaina you never hear about. And when you hear about that with the insurance company, you say, okay, well, why would the insurance, so the insurance company knows ahead of time that there's going to be fires in the Palisades, so they withdraw insurance from homeowners because they don't want to be on the hook, right? Well, we know how America is a corporation and it's working with insurance companies, corporations. So they tip them off and they tell them, hey, you better pull the insurance. So you say to yourself, well, why? Okay, maybe they tipped them off, but why would they burn down the Palisades? Why would they burn down Los Angeles? I mean, Los Angeles, right? It's where the wealthy are. It's where all these libs reside. It's where, it's where Hollywood elites reside. Why would they go after some of their own? Well, first of all, it doesn't matter about going after your own. Don't forget the motto of these secret societies. It's for the greater good of the cause, which means if there's somebody who is a member of one of these secret societies who happens to be in the line of fire, they probably tipped them off and told them to sell their home or to move out of their home before this actually hits. But they're not going to go, hey, Joe from Lodge 47 lives down right in the Palisades, and he's a 33rd degree Mason, so maybe we could not burn the area down. Now, I'm sure they probably spared his home if it was a directed energy weapon, because, of course, they have the ability to do that and direct these at specific homes and locations. But this is all about the same thing, in my opinion, that Lahaina is about. Smart city. Have you seen this with Los Angeles? Smart LA by 2028. Los Angeles is hosting the 2028 Olympics. And what remarkable luck that the area surrounding, including the Palisades, which will host the Olympics, happened to burn to the ground just about 3.5 years before the Olympics start. Because if you haven't heard, they're struggling to get these Olympics up and running in California because of the infrastructure. Because Los Angeles is not prepared for it yet as far as their infrastructure goes. You can look for yourself because there have been tons of stories out there about Los Angeles facing significant challenges in preparing for the 2028 Olympics, primarily due to its ongoing issues with homelessness, traffic congestion, and a need for substantial infrastructure improvements. And traffic congestion is a part of Smart City. It's supposed to resolve the congestion because everything is operated through the city. Everything is operated through technology. There's no people driving cars anymore. Everything is operated through those towers that are controlling you, that are standing right next to you that nobody notices, like in the TV show Westworld, because that's literally what they're creating. So when cities prepare for the Olympics, for anybody out there that doesn't know, they experience many changes, many infrastructure changes. Now, that doesn't mean that if the Olympics are wherever they're going to have the Olympics, that they're going to suddenly do a directed energy weapon that they need to burn it down around the area so that they can roll in with the Olympics, right? But in the case of Los Angeles, when you hear about the Olympics going to Los Angeles, everybody out there immediately was probably thinking, well, that's going to be pretty difficult. It's pretty congested. It's pretty hard to travel and get around. So when they announced this, about, I think, 2017, when they announced that the Olympics were going to be there, they said Los Angeles is preparing to be a smart city for the 2028 Summer Olympics. They're preparing to switch off from the current infrastructure and reboot it into a smart infrastructure. And they talked about redefining smart cities while preparing for the Olympics. Well, it takes a lot to turn a city into a smart city. So for anybody out there, it's like, oh, a smart city. Well, what do you think? That they're just going to walk up to a building and put a sticker on it that has Bluetooth capabilities in it, and suddenly it's a smart building? We're talking infrastructure. For people who don't understand, infrastructure is everything within the city, right? It has to operate through Bluetooth, through wireless technology. It also be hooked up to the same system, which means a stoplight to a smart city scooter, to a smart city taxi, to smart city transport. It all has to be connected. And in order to connect it, you have to rebuild it. You have to tear it down and rebuild it. So if you actually go and look at Smart LA 2028, this is what the plan has been. And you can even look at this guy, Ted Ross, who is the one being interviewed in this article, talking about how Los Angeles needs to become a smart city. It needs new infrastructure. So the Olympics has come to represent an opportunity for a host city to modernize and revitalize itself. The way that someone might finally put up curtains or paint on an accent wall before inviting everyone over for a party. Instead of curtains and paint, it's the promise of urban renewal and long overdue infrastructure upgrades that organizers have increasingly used to make a case to officials and residents for hosting the Olympics. In Los Angeles, for instance, that means projects to bolster that region's rail system, renovate the convention center, and revamp the airport, among others. So let's just take a look at that one more time. Modernize and revitalize. When these cities get the Olympics slapped onto them, it doesn't just mean that Olympic athletes that you've never heard of are flying into a city. They're all putting on their Speedos and they're going to go and play out in, the back of a high school gymnasium somewhere, or in a, National Football League coliseum, so to speak. It means infrastructure change. When the Olympics come, everything around it gets changed. And Los Angeles went out of their way to make sure they had this Olympics because this is part of smart city infrastructure in the United States of America. Somewhere like Los Angeles has clearly been pinpointed as the place that's going to roll this out. So Los Angeles Chief Information Officer Ted Ross increasingly spends his workdays focused on projects connected to his city hosting the Olympics. While the global event is a few years away, it will require major improvements to the city's digital and physical infrastructure. Digital and physical infrastructure. Not long after the International Olympic Committee awarded LA the 2028 Games, Ross's office published its Smart LA strategy, made up of 66 projects, not a coincidence, including a new light rail at Los Angeles International Airport, expanded 5G networks, and a regional data exchange through which local governments and business groups can share data on topics like traffic patterns and environmental conditions. Ross said that Smart LA, the strategy leans on doesn't want to lean on the term smart city. He said, I think smart cities is a little bit restrictive. I think all cities are smart. Some of the most difficult problems to solve are city problems. He wants to call it digital cities is a more appropriate term. Everything from infrastructure to digital services to how we interface with our constituents and really how we deliver is going through a transformation. We are carrying around smartphones in our pockets, and there's so much more available to interact with our residents. So this means major changes to infrastructure. So in other words, okay, let's put it this way for people out there, like they're trying to, figure out what I'm saying and try to visualize this. Let's say that there is a big stadium, right? Like the big stadiums in California that are going to host some of these events. Well, do you think that they control all of the things that are on the outside of that stadium? There might be a beautiful home, another beautiful home, and then there might be a couple of abandoned homes or projects or homes that are under development or areas that they want to use for the Olympics and areas that they want to bring in the infrastructure. Because say that there's a small business owner located next to these big, say Amazon put a gigantic office right next to one of these. And then there was a couple of small business owners who refused to sell their business. And they said, I'm not going to sell my pizzeria, and I'm not turning it into a smart pizzeria. It's my pizzeria. I just want to sell pizza. I want to be left alone, right? And say next to that, there was a nail salon, and a couple shops down, there was another small business, a bakery, right? And all these people said, we're not going anywhere. We've been here for 80 years. I got this land from my great-grandfather. Now I run the business out here. Well, how do you think they get people out? How do you think they plan on building a smart city? You think they expect everyone to comply? It doesn't matter if you're a Dem or a conservative. If you own a business out there, it doesn't matter what your political ideologies are and what you think if they should have pronouns. If you have something that's in their way, they're going to take you out. And if infrastructure needs to be changed and you refuse to change the infrastructure and you refuse or you're in their way, this is how they operate. What do you think they're going to do? Just come and evict the small bakery guy? Or are they going to create something that they could easily do because we all know about DARPA's directed energy weapons and we know about the capabilities they have to create these fires and then, the capabilities to stir these winds, these non-normal Santa Ana winds. They're, popping up all over the place, all the chemtrailing being reported days before these fires occurred. They don't expect anyone to be suspicious of it. So instead of going there and going, hey, we're going to go to his business. He could be an Asian man, could be a black man. And we're going to evict him from this business because we want to tear it down. And we want to put up, let's say, Olympic Village over here. And the entire Olympic Village is all done through Wi-Fi and smart tech. And everyone's going to have this new interface to interact where they could do things without even having a credit card. And they could do everything with a chip or a passcode, etc. Well, what do you think? They're going to go and they're just going to say, hey, you got to go. We don't want you here anymore. We'll buy your business for 10 times what it's worth. And he goes, I don't want to sell it. All right. And they're going to go, oh, well, we're going to throw you out. Oh, yeah, he's going to throw him out. He's going to make a big deal on social media that, hey, I didn't want to leave my business here. And they came and they tried to so now they're throwing me out. They're raised. No, what they're going to do is they're going to use things like directed energy weapons to recreate infrastructure, to recreate and move people around like cattle, like sheep, burn land, confiscate the land like they did in Lahaina. That's how they operate. So for people to say it's out of the realm of possibility that because of the Olympics or because these people want to land grab, they literally think that these people have souls. These people have no conscience. And if you actually knew what they did in darkness, all the stuff that, I've tried to expose years before all of this Q-controlled psyops were out there in regards to places like McMartin. All these stories that have come forward from victims of SRA, all this stuff out there. People knew what these people did at their core, then you wouldn't even blink at the notion of them using a directed energy weapon to annihilate areas, whether people were in the way or not, whether people have children in the home, pets in them. They don't blink. And you wouldn't even blink at thinking that if you knew what these people were really involved in, which is why it's important to expose their teachings and their books, which I've exposed many times in the website, right? That book that ends in the word mud. Right? You all know what book I'm talking about. Or many of their teachings, any of the stuff that Aleister Crowley teaches, right? They look at us as ants, as cattle. So if you actually can get to the point where you could see these people as to what they are, then you would say, oh, okay, well, they do have the technology to do this. So then they would actually do it. If I told you that Jeffrey Dahmer and Ted Bundy and Charles Manson were still alive based on all the stuff you were ever told about those serial killers, which, again, operatives of the government. But if I told you they were all alive and that they got their hands on a directed energy weapon, what would everybody say? They'd be like, oh my gosh, we can't have these psychopaths have their hands on it. They could kill everybody. They're serial killers, right? Well, just use that logic. When people like us are talking about this as, not just a land grab, they're hell-bent on getting this infrastructure in place because it's a control grid. That's why they want it. It's about more than money. It's about controlling every human being's every single movement. And that's why the smart cities are so important. So it's not about money for them. It's about control. But if I told you that serial killers like that you've been told about, these boogeymen had this power, that they went and found these weapons somewhere, now they have it, and they're all alive conspiring together, every civilian would say, we got to get it away from them. They're psychopaths. So why is it so hard to believe that your people in government have these weapons, which are all documented? It's not like we're making up these weapons. They've created narratives like space lasers so that you don't think or look into DARPA's directed energy weapons. That's how mind control works. It's right there for you to go see. Go look it up. I've covered it 1,000,000 times. So then you go, okay, they do have this capability, right? So what's the hard part to grasp? That they would kill innocent people? These are the same governments that go wage war in other countries, right? All the stuff we see going on in Gaza, right? We hear everyone in an uproar. Oh my gosh, I can't believe the governments are the ones who are doing this to the people. These pictures you see of children with limbs blown off, you think they're blinking at it? So why wouldn't you think that they would do this to their own civilians? They're not these people are not representing American civilians. They're representing themselves. Okay? It doesn't matter. What do you think? Because it's in America that they wouldn't do it to their own people? Like they give a crap over in Israel or anywhere, or Gaza or any of these other places you see images of war, which again, we could question the validity of any of it because we know a lot of the stuff is faked anyway. But that's the problem that people have, wrapping their heads around it. Because all I see are people talking about, oh my goodness, oh, it's a directed energy. Everyone's jumping to conclusions. Well, you look at it and you say, this isn't normal, right? This doesn't happen in January in California. It's 65 degrees in California. It came out of nowhere. The winds gusted up, and you can see houses aren't hit. Some trees aren't melted some trees didn't catch fire. So you automatically go, it's suspicious, right? And the fact that it constantly happens there. How about the insurance company story? That's not enough to make you go, well, that's a little bit weird. What, did the insurance companies get tipped off? Yeah, they got tipped off, which would mean what? It's planned. So who would be the one planning it? Who would tip off the insurance company? Some psychopath who they're going to tell you lit a fire in his backyard? Oops, and it spread. Who tipped off the insurance companies? Oh, the government did. Who has access to these weapons? The government does. So then is the only problem people seem to have getting past the point of they wouldn't do this to us. But if I told you that Jeff Dahmer had this capability, had this technology, you'd say, oh yeah, he would do it to us. Well, guess what? These people are sicker than what you've been told about Dahmer, Michael Myers, Freddy Krueger, Jason Voorhees, Ted Bundy, whoever, Gacy. They're sicker than them. They're psychopaths who have this technology at their fingertips. And they know when they do this that no one's ever going to be able to trace it back to them, that the majority of people have been trained to call it conspiracy theory, and the majority of people can't wrap their heads around these guys in suits doing things like this to civilians. So they're automatically just going to accept wildfire and climate as the reason for it. Your motives are all over the place. You can look at the insurance companies. You could say, is that a real story about the insurance companies? Well, a lot of people have reported this, that a lot of people are getting denied homeowners insurance in California. This is going on around the United States of America. All of a sudden, conveniently, they don't want to give people homeowners insurance, right? How convenient. As they're ramping up their directed energy weapons and their weather modification, right? Oh, you got hit in a hurricane, not getting anything. Oh, you got, I mean, very convenient, isn't it? Isn't it? And then you look at the Olympics and you know that they're already talking about, I mean, you can ask the Google algorithm. I mean, that's how easy it is to see some of this stuff, right? You ask Google's AI in a search, are the Olympics, are they having challenges? Yes, the Olympics are having challenges preparing for the 2028 Olympics. Is Los Angeles going to be a smart city for the Olympics? Yes, Los Angeles is preparing to be a smart city for the 2028 Olympics. Los Angeles is preparing to do all sorts of things in regards to redefining what smart cities are. Well, are they there yet? No, they're not. Why aren't they there yet? Well, there's lots of things in the way, and it's not going according to plan. And there's homes in the way, and there's areas in the way that they want to clear out, and they're not going to hire bulldozers and dump trucks to clear out people's homes, are they? Because people would say, you're not running a bulldozer over my home so you could have a little smart village inside of the area that I've lived for 80 years. Well, guess what? They're going to either burn you out and make you flee and leave the state and leave your home and leave your things behind, or they're going to kill you right on the spot. And that's what you're seeing going on. And this isn't a left-right thing, because the left-right isn't real. And this is part of the sickness that we see going on, right? We see the seesaw, which I'll cover in some more videos coming up. We see how the power shift has gone back to conservatives, right? And they're sitting there and they're laughing about California and all these poor people, as if every home in California, oh, the person's got to be a liberal, got to be somebody who voted for Biden. They don't even know. I mean, wherever you live, you don't know what your next door neighbor votes, and maybe you do. You can't look at it and say, oh, yeah, it's God's wrath, or this is what they deserve because there's a cesspool in California and Hollywood's in California. We got to drain this off. That's a disgusting mindset. Innocent people are literally having their lives upended, losing their lives, losing family members, losing pets, losing things that might be precious to them, like photographs or other things that we don't think about that we take for granted. And then all of a sudden, they don't even have insurance. So they have nowhere to go, nowhere to live. Their cars are burned. And people out there laugh about it. Shows you how sick they've made people, all based off of political ideologies. And that's why I've warned for years about this, with left and right going back and forth, and everybody getting so angry at one another. That way people laughing at one another while the government themselves are the ones doing this to all of us. Pretty frightening, isn't it? Prayers for everybody out there affected. Those are the motives that I see as of right now that make perfect sense, especially since the Palisades, a large region of the Palisades, is being used for the Olympic Games. And there's a golf course there specifically where they're going to have a big golf event. And they're going to want to build towns around the golf course, because a lot of places that have golf courses have homes around the golf courses, private homes and stuff like that. They're going to want to really just build this thing out and keep the golf course there, or redo the golf course, and put all these fancy smart cities and smart hotels around it. That's the plan. People go, oh, they wouldn't do that just to build a smart city. Oh, yeah. Do you understand that what a smart city is needed for? It's a system of control. It's a control grid of you and your movements and your whereabouts. And there's no escape from it. And they're going to do whatever they can, no matter who stands in their way, to get it done. And this is just proof, just like Lahaina. I thank everyone for being here. Hope you're all doing well. God bless you and your families, as always.